Happy Monday, everyone. Happy Monday, everyone. I had this all set up and there we go. Hopefully you can see the painting rather decently today because I'm going to talk about shapes on this new canvas. It's more important you see my painting than you see my face. So I hope you've had a great week. Sun is shining here today and it's a glorious day in the Kootenays. I have been recently doing chats on the 5 fundamentals of fine art. Last week I did a chat, a 10-minute Monday art tips on composition. Hope you enjoyed it. Today the next topic will be on line and shape. So that is why I am going to have a little chat about what I've got on my easel. This is just the beginning of my next painting. Just got it started, barely put on, and it's the most important part really because that at this stage you can tell whether or not you have got a good composition, which for more details on that refer to last week. Today I want to talk to you about the lines and the shapes. The most important part of shape you have to remember is the negative shape or negative spaces. What is that, you ask? The negative shapes are the space around the tree. So the tree itself would be a positive space shape. This space around it, the holes. For example, this little triangle right here is a fabulous shape. And then up here we have a bigger shape of sky. It's basically the air. How only an artist can paint air or space. Give that a thought for a minute. And yeah, it can be a little bit mind-blowing. Look at this tiny, teeny, weeny shape that I put right there. See, it would be, if I cover it up with the dark, it doesn't look as good. If you see that little tiny dot, it looks interesting. It makes the painting more interesting. Now, the thing about negative spaces, negative shapes, is you need a variety. You need them to be just as interesting as the shape of the tree itself. For example, I had an extra branch in this area and I didn't like it because it made it too busy. I wanted space between these two. I wanted this lovely shape in there to be an important part of the painting, and where it's located was important. And I also wanted these two trees to kind of have a bit of a connection but not be touching. So all of these things are things to consider. And you don't want to have too many shapes. You've heard me say in previous tips that balance requires dominance. And that goes for everything. That means you don't want all sky and all trees, 50-50. You want one to be more dominant than the other. So you also need your warm colors versus cool colors. You need one more dominant than the other. You also need, earth to be down here, more sky, or more earth, less sky. One more dominant than the other. That theory applies in many of the things. Light colors, cool colors, dark colors, light colors. One has to be more dominant than the other. Keep that in mind. I'm veering a little bit off topic today because generally speaking, the 5 elements of fine art, they all kind of interlap, or they're all interwoven a bit. So when you're talking about spaces, you don't want too many spaces. If you want just the right amount. And you also want some spaces to be bigger, like this space in here, some to be just a little dot. But you do not want repetition in your shapes. You want them to be all different shapes and sizes, some big, some small, some in between. And then of course you've got this big, huge shape up there, which is really a big sky shape. I haven't got my rocks in yet, so we don't even need to talk about them. But just keep that in mind, the right number of sky holes. These can also be referred to as sky holes. And I really like painting sky holes because that's where some magic can really happen. And I also want to talk to you about lines. I wore my stripes today so that we could just really emphasize the importance of lines. Now with lines in your painting, you need to have hard and soft lines or edges. Right now, these trees are pretty hard edged in most spots. Some are a little softer in some areas where they're going to be a little bit blurred. But down in the rock section down in here, it's going to be a little bit more blurred, not as defined as the tree against the sky. Now, if everything was hard edged, it would make it difficult for you to see where your focal point's going to be. That's one of the reasons you need to have certain hard edges. And this tree over here is not going to be my focal point, so it will not be as hard edged as, say, this tree, where I really want people to really notice what's going on. I want that to be like where some magic really happens. This is going to be my focal point, which I talked about last week as well. Hard edges help to establish your focal point. Soft edges, I'm not going to have a ton going on down in this bottom corner with hard edges. I will put some bushes, some colors, etc. So you need a variation of hard and soft, one more dominant than the other, of course. You also are going to need some long lines and some short lines. And you can kind of see how I've got this nice long straight branch there, and then a short branch, and a short branch and a long branch. And some are going up, some are hanging down. Some are short little twigs going up, some are long twigs going up. Now you need a variation of those. And another thing you want to keep in mind is a lot of my students will like paint like that, and they'll do like straight across, straight across, straight across, and then, or they'll do up and down, there, 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 there. They forget that you can sometimes do a stroke on an angle. So here I did an angle, and then I turned my brush the thin way and I did a little stroke, and then I went thick again, and then I went up, down, over, straight, up, in. Remember to keep twisting that paintbrush in your hand. Sometimes you're going to want to paint a straight across stroke with the thick of your brush. Sometimes you're going to want it thin like that, and sometimes you're going to go up and down on an angle. You don't want to be repetitive. There are no rules, except I think it's kind of boring if you do every stroke up and down with the thick of your brush. You want to have ins and outs. Don't forget to let some of the branches almost go all the way up to the tree trunk branch. Some are going to hang down low, others aren't. Some of them have no branches hanging down off the twig. You've got to think like a tree. And I know that sounds hokey, but it is the truth. You want your brush strokes to be irregular. If you get rhythmic and mundane, that's an effect, and it can sometimes work, but not for most of us. So remember to constantly be rotating your brush as you're working. And you can even rotate your brush as you're doing your stroke. Look at that, see? I learned that in a workshop one time. This fellow would twist his brush like that as he would do a stroke. Just twist So that keeps the paint strokes exciting. Some strokes are going to be long, some short, some in, some out. Some are going to be straight, some are going to be curved. Some are going to be hard, some are going to be soft. Okay? Same goes with your shapes. Some big, some small. Some triangles, squares, circles, ovals. You name it. Keep it exciting, people. Have a great week. That 10 minutes just flew by because I was talking endlessly. So take it in. Let me know what you think. And I will see you back here for another fundamental art tip next week. Have a good one. Bye.